Michael, you and I have had this conversation many a time. Privately, offline, on camera, I believe. We just talked about black people greetings. Black people greetings.
Okay.
More specifically, old black men greetings. I'm talking about like, oh, I can't call it. Oh, another day, another dollar.
Right.
And my favorite, this is universal, I can't complain. Okay? I can't complain. Right. Okay? The most complaining people will say, I can't complain. Okay? So,
right.
But there's just those different things that people say that we just get it. You know what I'm saying? Another day above ground,
That's
just
right.
Just different,
That's right.
things that we understand
Blessed to be here.
as a people.
Too blessed to be stressed.
Blessed and highly favored. The list goes on.
Yeah.
The list goes on.
Right.
I want to focus in on I can't complain. Because complaining takes a lot of energy. Okay, and as I get older, as I go through some things, I'm starting to learn that. Like complaining just takes a lot of energy. I'm talking about the NBA All-Star game. And All-Star weekend in general.
Okay.
But the NBA All-Star game. What I'm not going to do in my 45th year on this here planet, and my 20-something year of doing this, whatever you call this, is I'm not going to complain about the NBA All-Star game. I woke up this morning and I made up in my mind. I woke up on the right side of the bed. I woke up in my right mind, and I decided.
Keep going. You got to keep going.
Right.
You got to keep going what they did.
I'm trying to get it. Like, listen, I woke up and I decided that I was not going to complain and lament the current state of NBA All-Star weekend. Even after a team cracked 200 points last night. I'm not going to sit up here and say, oh, man, the good old days. Oh, when they used to take it seriously. Oh, when they used to play defense. They mess around for 3 quarters, but in the 4th quarter, they get serious. Whatever happened to the East-West rivalries? Whatever happened to people understanding that that it grew the game and it had to be taken? You know why I'm not complaining? Because that ain't going to change. Because ain't nothing going to change. This is me accepting the things that I cannot change, or we cannot change, and the courage to know the difference. Okay, like I understand, because I feel like a broken record. Forget the records that were broken last night. It's a broken record at this point where every year, without fail, the day after the All-Star game, we're talking about everything that's wrong with the All-Star game and how the game is dead. And how we have to fix the All-Star game. Or we have to go back to, as we did last night, East versus West because the solutions weren't working. For me, man, at this point, I choose to consume the All-Star festivities, in particular the All-Star game, for what they are, not for what I wish they were or for what they should be, I tell it like it is, and I tell it how it could be. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, I would prefer that we all just enjoy the game for what it is, and enjoy the shooting displays. I mean, Damian Lillard's shots last night were incredible. Tyrese Halliburton doing his thing on his home court was incredible. I don't know how the hell Karl Anthony Towns, sorry.
Cat Williams.
I don't know how Karl Anthony Towns got. When did he get 50 points? Like that was the sneakiest 50 points I've ever seen in a basketball game. There was some fun moments. Luka Doncic's failed dunk, for example. Steph Curry had moments. It was fun for what it is. If we're constantly complaining about the way things used to be, could be, would be, should be, or what they're not, then we're never going to enjoy things. That's general. I don't know who needs to hear this. That's in general. You're never going to enjoy things or appreciate things for what or who, as the case may be, what or who they are. And so when it comes to the All-Star weekend, it is what it is. And I'm okay with that at this point because I'm tired. I'm tired at my old age of complaining about something that's not going to change. They're not going to start playing defense. They're just not. They're not going to take it seriously. They're not going to be competitive. We have a hard enough time. The modern NBA has a hard enough time getting players to play in regular season games, to participate in enough regular season games.
That's right.
Why do you think they're going to take the All-Star game seriously, no matter how much we complain about it? Like, let it go. Let it go and just walk away. Don't walk away.
That's funny. That's funny. You talk about you're not gonna complain. You know that old song, since you're raised in the church. Have you ever seen that song in the church? All of my good days outweigh my bad days. I won't complain. Everybody goes, oh! Oh! I won't complain. Oh. Reverend Paul Jones.
No.
Paul Jones.
Listen. The catching of the Holy Ghost was my favorite part of what you just did. Because I had a flashback. I had a flashback to my young men's usher board days.
Oh, yeah, there it is. Tell them about it. Like, this is like, you can't get this anywhere else. Tell them about the usher board. They don't know about the usher board. They don't know about it.
I was the president of the young men's usher board at my grandfather's church all throughout my teenage years. Yeah, man. And so it was our responsibility to carry the women who fell out with the Holy Ghost
at the altar
to that song and others. No, not even at the altar, in the pews. Man, you know how many people had to pick up from between the pews? Like, I was like, I might as well have been a construction worker. They're like, yeah, man. And then you got to carry them out without their dresses getting, exposing too much. Carry them into the fellowship hall, People just hang out in the fellowship hall. Because long after the Holy Ghost had left, they just be in the fellowship hall just chirping. You ever notice that? They just be there just chirping. Just like, wait a minute, y'all get back in church. Y'all over here making all this noise. Get back in church. I'm sorry. Flashback.
See, that's different. I like the flashback because they fell out in the pews at your church. That's serious.
Man.
See, like pews. At our church, they call you up. They call you up, the bishop. Now, who made you bishop? I don't know, but he called himself bishop, and we called him bishop too. Anyway, bishop would put some oil on you. He anoint your head with oil, and he had these huge hands, and sometimes he'd push you out. He just push you down. He'd pray over you.
It wasn't up to you. It wasn't up to you. All right, you're going to fall one way or the
other. And some people do the same thing every week. Every week, like, oh, he's about to get happy. I know he did this last week. Oh, he's about to shake.
Right.
There it is. So anyway, I love that. I love the flashback. We could have a whole show on that. But I'll tell you, I like what you said about the All-Star game. You said what it is. I guess the question is, what is it? We got to define what the All-Star game is. And so
a three-point shooting.
A mixtape.
It's the three-point shooting contest. That's not the contest. And low-key, it's the dunk contest, but not in the dunk contest. All they do is shoot threes and throw alleys to themselves off the backboard. That's it. That's what it is.
And just say, hey, how many numbers can we kind of push? What kind of shots how many shots can we take that are outrageous? Let's see what we can do in this game. You know what it is?
Half court now.
The NBA All-Star game. You want to see what the NBA All-Star game is? Not only is it the mixtape that you've seen, it's a test kitchen. The NBA All-Star Game is a test kitchen for players to go out there to see what they can do for themselves, to see what they can do with other players. That's what we're talking about. And other sports are not having these conversations because, speaking of the Holy Ghost, they gave up the ghost a long time ago. So Major League Baseball, once upon a time, tried to attach the All-Star Game to home field advantage in the World Series. That wasn't smart. Even in real time, it wasn't smart. And then people figured out that's not a good way to go. NHL All-Star Game looks nothing like an NHL game. And can we talk about the Pro Bowl? I enjoyed it. It was fun. It's flag football, essentially. People are just messing around. It's 7-on-7, man. Like, why do we think, NBA fans, why do we think that we're going to get a real game? Because for you old school folks, and I was there, I watched it, it wasn't even like that back in the day. It wasn't like that back in the day.
We remember the fourth quarters and we romanticized some of those fourth quarters, some of those iconic fourth quarters. And that was how it was year after year. You're absolutely right. It was never super, super competitive. It was more competitive than it is now. Make no mistake about it. Okay?
Right.
But there was a lot more emotion. So much has changed. So much has evolved, man. It's like, and I don't want to be in this. I'm an old man yelling at clouds enough to not be in this case. It's like talking about today's generation of kids. Like, they got stuff that we never had growing up. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, they're not going to function the same way we do.
You got it. That's exactly the point. Look, all right, I'm old enough to remember. This is where the age difference gives me an advantage. I'm old enough to remember an all-star game in the Richfield Coliseum. For those who don't know, Richfield, that's outside of Cleveland. All right. So the Cavaliers were not good. This is long before LeBron James. An all-star game, Richfield Coliseum in the 80s. Maybe 81, 82, I can't remember. It's somewhere in the 80s. And, the score was high. They were like, oh, I can't believe how high the score is. It's like 120 something. It's like 123 to 120, something like that. All right. But in those days, think about it, in the early 80s, you didn't have the NBA on TNT. You didn't have DirecTV. You didn't have, the game, ESPN, ABC, and all these opportunities, and NBA TV. You couldn't see all these players. So some players, Michael, came into the All-Star game, especially if you didn't play in LA or Boston or Philly.
Moment.
Some players came to All-Star games like, I'm about to prove myself. A lot of people don't know what I can do. This is my opportunity to prove what kind of player I am. And they were competitive because that was the only platform they had for everybody to look at them. Well, I don't want that to come back. I'm glad we can see games all the time.
Yeah.
I'm glad I know.
Or was there a way?
I'm glad I know players for the Utah Jazz and the Sacramento Kings and Orlando Magic, like non-LA, Boston, New York markets. So look, they just go kick it. Okay, it's a party. It's a week-long party. It's a weekend party.
You can't throw a party. Thank you. That's perfect. You can't throw a party and then at the end of it say, okay, y'all, go to work. It's like, no, the whole weekend is vacation. It's a party. So asking them to actually work at the end, that's not how they're wired to do it. Like, there's too much socializing. We've already talked about, for years, we've talked about how the game has evolved. I guess, chalk it up to player empowerment, whatever you want to chalk it up to. More and more players work out together. More and more players are friends. More and more players team up. People switch conferences. I mean, Damian Lillard won MVP for the Eastern Conference last night. Like, player movement is much more of a regular thing than it was back in the day. So the natural rivalries that carried over into the All-Star game don't exist. But we've long since covered that. I think what you saw last night, more so than I can remember, and it's not a new thing, but maybe I'm just late to recognize it, is what's killed the All-Star game, honestly, is three-point shooting. And I'm not blaming Steph. I'm not saying like I missed the days where there was no three-point shot, but it's that everybody can do it. Everybody can shoot threes and shoot them from distance and shoot them effortlessly. The three-point shot, even the context.
Not from half court like him, though.
Well, not quite, but Steph can. I'm sure a lot of them can. But Dame takes it to another level from most guys. What was I saying? Oh, even the contest itself, and I'll get to the contest, and more specifically, I know they didn't call it the Battle of the Sexes, but the NBA's version of Battle of the Sexes in a second. But even the contest itself is somewhat antiquated because it's not a novelty anymore. You're not special if you can shoot threes well. Everybody can shoot threes well. Maybe not as well as Steph or Damian Lillard, who's won it back-to-back now, but everybody can do it. It doesn't make you unique. Whereas back in the day, it's like, oh man, the three-point shooting contest, that was the best three-point shooters in the league. Not necessarily. And it mattered when Larry Bird walked, talking about who's finishing second. Like,
who's finishing second?
Random dudes finish second now. Like, it's not a thing anymore. And so in the All-Star game, you're going to get to 211 points when they're taking 150 three-pointers. It's like that's all they're doing is shooting threes. It's hard to defend. It adds up quickly. That's what the game is. That's why dudes are scoring 70 points like it's nothing in regular season games. There's already a conversation, some would say an issue or a problem, about the explosion of offense in regular season games. Why would that not manifest itself in an all-star game with no defense at all? I mean, this is just where the game is, and I don't think there's any turning back the clock. I don't think there's any solution to fixing it, although I am interested in your proposed solution, which is to shorten it.
Shorten it.
Take it away.
Shorten it. So look, Mike, maybe there's no going back, and you won't get
stylistically. Stylistically, that's what I mean. Stylistically,
the all-out competitiveness that you're looking for. But if you turn this, if the game is already not a normal game, we'll go ahead and play around with it. Test some things out in there. So instead of making it, our normal games are 48 minutes, make it 30. Go 2 halves, 36, whatever it is. You're still gonna have the fun in there. You're still gonna have the 3-point shooting. You're still gonna have people who are just kind of messing around. But after 36 minutes, in those final 6, it's probably going to be, somebody's going to be within 10 to 12 points. Like, the more time you have, the more opportunities you're going to have for 211 to 186. You ain't getting 211 at 36 minutes. That just ain't happening. Yeah. You can bomb all day long. You can have 3 points. Everybody can take 3-pointers. Say, hey, nobody go to the hoop, take 3-pointers.
So you got a lower final score. It's not as eye popping, but does it really matter? Because it's the same. It's gonna be the same game, right?
I don't know. I don't know if it'll be the same game, because if you know that there's a limited amount of time, you've already got a shelf life. You're on a different kind of clock. Literally, you're on a different clock than you are in a regular season game. All right, you might be able to push it. You might go all out for real in minutes, 29 to 36, because most of these guys are playing like at 48 minutes. They're used to that. 30 minutes? Some dudes be like, man, I ain't even sweating yet. Hey, your head's throbbing and I ain't said bleep yet. I ain't said nothing. So I think you can shorten the All-Star game and get a more competitive product. I do.
Maybe depends on the rotation and that sort of thing, and who's playing how many minutes.
But even if you don't, even if it's not more competitive,
don't shorten it. Okay.
Oh no, I'm saying, but even if it's not more competitive, why are we doing this?
Why are we fixing something that necessarily ain't broke?
Why are we pretending like it's a real game?
Well, right. It's not that, because it's not that serious. It's actually not that serious. Because you know who it's not that serious to? The players. I loved your point about Richfield Coliseum. And back in the day, how it was an opportunity for guys it was their moment where they arrived. It was their moment where they were like, hey, I'm an all-star. And it matters to people now. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying for the first timers or the young guys, it doesn't matter when they finally make the all-star game. The all-star status doesn't even mean what it once did, for a variety of reasons. Like, saying somebody's an all-star doesn't carry the same weight as it does. Some of it, I would start but not end with rings culture. I would start but not end with the fact that the end-all be-all is, were you a champion or did you drive the bus? And so that, more than just being a good player, just being a good player, good enough to be an all-star, to me doesn't just carry the same weight as it once did. Especially as guys do it multiple times, it just gets taken for granted by the basketball community. It feels like. Again, I'm spitballing here.
I don't know.
But it feels like it's taken for granted by the basketball community, and therefore by a lot of the players themselves.
Hey, thank you for watching Brother from Another. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. Don't forget, you can catch us 3 to 4 weekdays on PeacockTV.com and on Sirius XM Channel 85.